Hey everybody, Questwise here, and today I want to show you a product that I came across that I think is really cool. This is a book called The Monsters Know What They're Doing by Keith Ammann. This is Keith also has a blog post that's got the same exact title. This book just came out this year. I'm a bookseller, so I have access to a lot of different companies and stuff and publishers and their catalogs and such. And that's how I discovered this. I actually stumbled upon it in one of the publishers' catalogs, and I was pleasantly surprised because once I had ordered it, I read the brief description on it and a couple of reviews, but I didn't really look into the specifics on the book. And this book is huge. This book is really big. It is 500 and some pages. Let's see, 535 pages long. And what this is now specifically, it would be very much, it's catered towards D&D 5th edition, and it's pretty specifically D&D 5th edition. At first I was going to say that you could probably use this with any sort of fantasy role-playing game, but the author it's very 5th edition. So if you're not playing 5th edition, you might want to pass this up, even though it's a really good read about fantasy creatures anyway. But it is very much rooted in 5th edition, which I enjoy. So I think that's a really cool thing. What this is it is strategy and tactics to use for monsters from the Monster Manual for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition from Wizards of the Coast. It goes into more depth and detail, and now the very beginning says that there's stuff in here like a refresher course for veteran game masters, but there's a lot of great information for newbie game masters, dungeon masters, and stuff as well. I would disagree, and here's why. I've been a game master, a dungeon master. I've been role playing since 1991, 92, and I still found a ton of stuff in this that made me go, "Oh yeah, no, really, that's kind of interesting." So one of the things that's really interesting about this is he breaks it down by sort of monster types, so humanoids, aberrations, funguses, plants, that kind of stuff, as they are broken down in the Monster Manual for 5th edition. What I find really interesting, and this is one of those things that sort of kind of caught me off guard a little bit. One of the things he mentions in this book is he talks about how one of the things you really need to pay attention to when you're running a monster or type of creature in D&D 5th edition is to keep a note on their attribute scores. And that is something that I always sort of I just glaze over. I always look at their special abilities, I look at their speed, I look at a couple other things, but I always sort of neglect to include their attribute scores. And he says in this book that it's very important to keep track of those things. A very intelligent monster will be able to scheme. He will be able to put together ambushes and special maneuvers and tactics and stuff, where a sort of lower scored intelligent creature is really looking out for just self-preservation, all the way down to those that don't really have much of an intelligence at all, that are just there to feed. Lots of other things like checking to see what their constitution scores are. How hardy of a creature are they? Can they take that kind of abuse? What's their wisdom score? That kind of stuff. And those are things I always sort of glaze over when I'm playing, and I should pay a lot more attention to it, especially when I'm setting up a big encounter for things. Now, he also goes into some great detail. One of my favorite things is he talks about goblins. I love to run sort of low level, like 1st to 3rd level adventures and like one shots and stuff as well too. And so, goblins and kobolds, you're trying to put stuff in there that's going to be challenging, but after a while you're just like, these are just goblins, they're just kobolds. He does a great job in this book by sort of giving you some more meat into things. Like goblins they're not meant to, as he calls it, the R stab rule. They're not going to just run up and start to attack you and stand there until they die. They are real living creatures in that world, and they want to be alive. They want to survive. So they'll attack you from, they'll be very stealthy and hide and attack you from the shadows and use ranged weapons. And only if they feel like they have the superior numbers over the characters will they sort of come out and try to attack you in melee combat. And at some point, they're going to run away, right? If they get really low in hit points or half of the rest of them have already perished, they're going to run. They want to be alive. They want to preserve their existence kind of thing. And he goes into things about dragons and all sorts. It's a really, really cool book. I highly recommend it. I think the MSRP is $28.99, you know, which is pretty standard for a hardcover novel in today's world. But 500 and some pages. This is a great, great read. I've plowed through most of this, and I'm actually gone back and started to reread some of the other things as well too. But definitely worth checking out. I know there's another one out there for players. I haven't read that one yet, but I highly recommend, if you are a game master, to go ahead and check out this book. The Monsters Know What They're Doing by Keith Ammann. Check it out today. It's actually put out by Saga Press, which has done some pretty amazing science fiction and fantasy stories so far recently as well too. So check it out. Very, very cool. I'm Questwise. Until next time, I am out.